I um I don't know exactly how to start this video. One of the rare occasions where I've actually decided that I'm gonna make just a YouTube video, and for everyone knows what's going on in the world right now, and it's hard with the COVID-19 virus. I've talked about it several times on stream. Um, but then you have this in my mind, the way that I look at it, this was a murder. Whether it was intentional or not, that's not necessarily for me to decide. I mean, I feel weird talking about this, and there's been a reason why I've not talked about things like this before, and it's because there was in my past there was a lot of negativity in my life, and I've wanted to just like push any negative feelings out of my head. But this this that's going on right now is something that not only is it not something that you can ignore, but I have so many people who are directly involved with this, and it it has drawn so much of my attention that I can't focus on anything else, and it's good that I can't, in a way, because this needs to be focused on. The the things that have happened, and what I've told a lot of other people before, is this has been a powder keg. This has been one of those things that is inevitable to happen based on previous things that have happened, not only just in this country but in fucking Minnesota. There have been completely preventable, needless deaths that have been caused by the police. And now this is not something that I'm trying to make sure that I am also a person who believes that police in general are not bad. Like, that's not the case. The bad thing is you have the people who have all of this rightly so frustration, and they can't take it out on anything except the police in general. And I can't say or tell them that that's not the case, or that shouldn't be the case, because I understand it. I do. Now, the reason one the other big reason that I always feel like I have an issue talking about something like this is, look at me. I'm a white male. I don't have the background that so many other people have, and who have all of these. They have to live in fear, and I understand that they do, and I hate that they have to. But it's and then you see things that just happened earlier, or yeah, earlier today, with um reporters getting arrested. Like, not only is that insane just in general, but you're looking at everything that is going on right now. The reporter did everything that you would expect a reporter to do. They were wanting to work with the officers who were telling them that they needed to move. He was saying, "We'll move. Just tell us where you want us to go." And it still happens. Still got arrested, seemingly for no reason. And like I said, I understand the frustration that so many people have, because I feel it too. I I am one who wants to believe in that there are good people out there, but inherently there are people who aren't. There are people who do believe that race plays a part on whether you're good or bad. And that to me is insane. It's frustrating because to me, we should be over this. Like, this should not, I'm not talking about the anger, I'm talking about racism in general. Why is this still a thing? There's no reason why people should be like this, or there should be no reason why people should think that just based on someone's color, their skin, that they're a bad person. There's definitely the other thought of where people who are of color don't get afforded opportunities and are oppressed. I see that as well. Now, I am willing to be wrong in certain situations because, again, I don't have the life experience of it. And I don't want to just be told you're wrong. Like, educate me. That is always going to be the thing that's going to help people, is educate them in why they are wrong, not necessarily yelling at them and telling them that they're wrong. But it's another thing that has happened in this world that is just tearing everything up. I have no idea what the initial intent of me putting this video out is for. I don't even know what the initial, like, I don't know what I planned on. Nothing in here is written. This is all just off the cuff, but it's one of those things that I had to talk. There's I was talking to someone yesterday and we just broached the subject because I live here and they didn't. And all of a sudden, several very lengthy texts later, it dawned on me that I apparently needed to talk about this. And that's kind of what this is about. It's one of those things where I look at this situation right now and I'm trying to figure out where I stand on it. I can tell you for sure I do not stand with the police that killed Floyd. I don't. Like, how that was handled, completely wrong. That was a needless death. That could have been very easily preventable by having the officer move his knee 6 fucking inches down his body to his back. Or not even have him on the ground at that point. Like, they were saying that he was resisting just because he needed. And I would argue that if anyone were to be choked, that's essentially what was happening there. Be choked for 9 minutes. Tell me you wouldn't try and struggle so you could breathe. Because I doubt you would. The fact that there is an investigation happening, I'm happy about. I'm happy there's at least someone looking in. Um, I am happy that the officers who are being negligent in this have been fired. Now, I tend to not go with a lot of the crowd when it comes to people saying something bad on the internet and having the crowd or the mob say, "Oh, this person should be fired," because in reality, a lot of those aren't justified. A lot of those times, it ends up being the company's trying to save their own ass, and then they fire someone. But in this situation, you have betrayed the trust, however little there may have been at that time. You have betrayed the trust of community and of uh sorry, I'm also like half working at this time while I'm trying to figure out what my thoughts are. You have betrayed the trust of the community, what little there may have been, and I don't think there's going to be anything back for that. Um, I would have hoped that not only was he fired, but that he was blacklisted. If there is anything about that. Did not be able to put a badge on again, but from the sounds of it, he is. I'm not going to push a whole different narrative because I don't know if it's true or not, so there's not even a point in pushing too much further. But the thought, what I had seen, that might be putting a badge on at some point, just somewhere else, and that shouldn't happen at all. I am happy to see that our mayor and the governor, senators and representatives of the state, all uh, yeah, um, they've all sided with the victim. Now they are supporting the police in terms of trying to get everyone to keep everyone safe because of all of the rioting and the looting. Protesting's a whole different story. To me and to a lot of people, these are two different people. Um, yeah, no, they've with our mayor. I've watched several interviews or press conferences with him, and so many times he has come off kind of the way that I've felt. Is I understand the anger. I understand where all of this rioting is coming from. I understand the feeling behind it. But the thing in my head, and this is what I've thought for most of these protests, and not just here, around the world, um, but I've always thought that the peaceful protests are what tries to enact change, and it's those people who I am very happy exist. But inevitably, there will be a group of people who come into that protest under the guise, again, the way that I see it. This may not be always the case, but I have no doubt that there are people who do this. People who come into the protest under the guise of being with the protest, and then they start rioting, looting. I mean, if you look at all of the buildings that have burned down in Minneapolis right now, a lot of them have graffiti on it. And a lot of them are saying, fuck the police. Like, I understand the anger. Again, I understand the anger behind it. But there's also the thing, too, where I'm like, you can't you can't not have police. You need to have some sort of protection, and I understand in the back of my mind that that protection has been betrayed but it ends up being one of those things too where like can't just get rid of them. I've seen how many years ago when uh there were other protests and people were saying defund the police. I'm like, while I agree that there are a number of cops who probably have that superiority or power complex, you need police to be able to respond based on what the situation is. If there's a riot, you need police to have riot gear. If there is, for example, and I almost don't even want to say the words because I don't want to ever like produce it, is if there's an active shooter, you need police to be able to respond in a way to make sure people are safe. So when people are saying that we need to defund the police, we need to get rid of the police, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Is there training that needs to be changed? Is there uh, higher ups that need to resign based on decisions that they have made? Maybe. I don't pretend to know what's how that process works. Inherently there is something that has gone wrong, and it's seemingly gone wrong a lot, Soda. So something has to change. We can't go back to the status quo, because if we go back to the status quo, we're going to be back here again in a year or two. But the reason why all of this is so much in the back of my mind is, one, I love Minnesota. I love this state. Um we have the moniker of Minnesota nice. And there's a reason for that. We tend to be kind and caring people as a general rule. So to have all of these issues with the police and police killings and things like that, it's like, what the fuck happened? Like, it's just, it's exhausting. And it's exhausting for me. I can't even imagine what people who are actually having to live through it are feeling. I can't imagine the fear that they have to live in a world where just existing could mean death for them if they come across someone who has a power complex or a superiority complex. I can't imagine that because I've never had to live it, and likely I probably. It is so sad. But I have reason why this has been such at the forefront of my. It's so nearby where I live. I'm safe. I mean, it's far enough away that I don't think they'll come this direction. Um, but I mean, it relatively nearby, and not only that, but I have friends and family who are blocks away from what's happening, and that's been what's driven driven me insane in a way. It's it's that thing where my brother, who's going to college, is blocks away from it, and thankfully we'll be moving him out this weekend because his lease is up, which is why I'm not streaming tomorrow. Or yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. This is all streamer conscious. I don't need to like try and qualify what day it is. Um, but my brother's right there. I've already told him that my place is open. If he doesn't feel safe, my place is open. I have really close friends of mine who are also blocks away from where this moved. It was centralized under or in an area where it made sense. Protesting and rioting was happening. Um, but then it moved. It moved closer to my friends and family, and that scared me. Now, while it seems like they were looting business, vandalizing and destroying businesses, which is sad in itself. Um, so housing, I don't think was a really a target, but still, who knows? Who really knows? Thankfully, I've talked to all of them. Like I said, my brother is safe. We're moving him, so we'll be getting him out of there. Um, I have another friend who sold his house, and they've already moved in elsewhere, far away from what's going on. And I have another who's still living blocks away, but he's that he's safe. So I'm glad for all of that. And then I found out today that a handful of my coworkers all are like in the middle. Like I'm not even trying to say like, oh, I was just on the outskirts of it. No, they're like in the middle of several fires that are happening. Again, I don't know what this is all about. I don't know what this video is meant to do. I don't know if it's just me trying to vent, trying to make it a point, trying to I don't know. I don't know what the point is. I'm hoping that I'm able to even formulate my thoughts in a coherent way. Um, and in the end, I believe I'm gonna just upload this as is because it's raw. Like it's me trying to formulate my own thoughts, trying to understand what's going on, and trying to figure out what do we do from here. Um, Last night the rioters uh took over the third precinct where the officers were from. They and started burning it down. In a weird way, I looked at that and I was happy, not necessarily to see the destruction or anything like that, but I was happy to see that because it seemed to have distracted a number of the rioters. So they weren't going off doing their own thing, traveling. Hell, there was a stretch of 10 miles or so that these rioters uh walked down and just broke into stores. Now I have a I can swallow the idea of rioting in that location where these events have happened. But when you start going off outside of that area, that's when I start to look at it and go, you're not demonstrating anything at this. All you're doing is you're taking advantage of the chaos to get free shit or to cause destruction or just in general to continue the chaos. And that's where, in my mind, that's the separation between rioting and protesting. Protesting are, I'm way behind all the protesters. They the reason why they're protesting is something I agree with. The rioting is a distraction. That is truly what I think. You have I've read online about several other people who are trying to justify the rioting as a way to get the attention, saying that the the people in power aren't paying attention to the protests, so we need to riot to get their attention. And even if that was the case, in this case, I don't think it happened, because immediately when that video came out, you had the people in power's attention because they were trying to do what they could do. Why the officers aren't arrested, I don't know. I don't pretend to know why decisions are made, and I don't history. I don't know. I'm not an officer, never have been. But I think those officers should be arrested and should be criminally charged. Um, because again, if it was anyone else, if I was at a party, this is the one example I can think of just off the cuff. If I was at a party and there was a fight that happened, again, example. If there was a fight that happened and I pinned down somebody who started the fight, in hopes until the police come by to get them, and I have my knee on this person's neck, and I end up killing them, I'd be arrested on the spot. And even if it was unintentional, it's there's still charges for it. You have to take responsibility for it. So why these officers aren't arrested yet is beyond me, and I think that's half of the problem. Why this continues, why it's escalated to where it's gotten now. Um, but you again, the rioters, you have the attention already. So then, now what? You're continuing to do this because you're angry? Again, I understand the feeling behind it, but I can't get behind the looting and the vandalism and rioting. So then what? Well, then there's all the spray paint on numerous buildings, especially ones that are on fire. And you have the ones on there that say, fuck the police. Again, understand the anger behind it. I disagree with it, but I understand the anger behind it. So, right next to that, and this is what I've seen in numerous pictures of uh, what's going on, you have people who are spray painting the anarchy A symbol. And at that point, it dawned on me that you have rioters who are just angry, but you have others who are just there to cause chaos, who want anarchy, who don't want order, and basically want to do whatever the hell they want. That's You've now taken the attention that everyone has had on these protests, and you've made it about you, the rioters. Because, and this is what I had said before too, is the headlines now aren't saying day 3 of protests in front of 3rd precinct regarding Floyd's death. The headlines now are saying rioting and looting happening in Minneapolis for 3 days, buildings burned, and other shit like that. Like the headlines no longer have any connection to the issue at hand, and that makes me angry because that means that there's no point why the only point to continue rioting and looting is because you want. So don't give me that shit about how you're justifying it because no one's paying attention. Guess what? People are fucking paying attention. And it's not about the riot. People were paying attention from the very beginning. And it is sad that it is because someone was there recording it that we have the attention. Because who knows how many other people, especially when you talk about the police. And that was the police report saying that there was a medical emergency and he died that way. Like, yeah, it was probably a medical emergency, but caused by your fucking knee on his neck. That's now whether or not that ends up being the officers who wrote the report trying to cover themselves up. That's one. But because I doubt that that is a third party in the does that. That is in my mind. That's again not a fucking cop. Don't know. But to me, that is those officers to cover their own ass. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope everything works out. I hope that this ends soon, and we can get back. We can get back to the new normal, which is still quarantine because of COVID. And even with that, like we can't go back to where we were. Kind of what I had said at the beginning of all of this. Like I've been talking for 30 minutes. And I don't know how much I've actually said. Everything has been just, again, off the top of my head, the way I feel at this very. I've needed, apparently, to talk about it, even if it's to a camera. And even with all of these, long pauses, me trying to formulate a thought, not cut out. I don't think I need to, because that's in my better for it. That I'm not trying to hide anything. Because if I cut something out, I could see somebody, if they look at this, I could see some, you said something here, I bet, that you didn't want to say. And I might. But I've also said earlier, I'm also willing to be wrong. I'm willing to admit to ignorance, willing to correct it on certain things. And I'm to understand that I'm a white male talking about the death of a black man by police, which is awkward within itself because the history of that. But I also don't we there are numerous times where I give police the benefit of the doubt because it's ambiguous or you don't fully know the situation. But there have been two that have happened in Minneapolis, and this is what's frustrating. There have been two deaths in Minneapolis that when you watch the footage, There's no reason why it should have. You have the shooting a couple years ago when he tells the officer, I have a gun in the car. Says it's on my hip. The officer says, okay, don't reach for it, but I need your ID. Says my ID's in my back pocket, and that's where my gun is at. Well, don't reach for your gun, but I need your ID. So he reaches for his ID, which happens to be where his gun is located, and he gets shot. That's so dumb. And he says he was fearful for his life. Like, there's ways to have de-escalated that. So many ways. But you chose not to. You chose to put yourself in that situation. Talking about the officer. You chose to put yourself in the situation to felt fearful. That's the case. And then in this situation, the man was already fucking handcuffed. You had two people who were on his legs and his back. You didn't need your goddamn. If you think that's at all correct to do, you need to rethink yourself. Because you are choking. Put him in a headlock. Hell, at this point, might as well just put a fucking bullet in his head. It's not okay. And it makes me angry that not only does that happen in the US still, but it happens in fucking Minnesota. The land that is supposed to be, we have to deal with. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope everyone is safe. That's in the end all I want. I want people to be happy. I want people to be safe. That's always been what I've stood behind it. That's part of the reason why I do videos that I try to be entertaining, even if it's just to myself. I try to make people laugh when I'm with them. Try to be funny. I even do it at my own expense sometimes. Like self-deprecating humor. What I at. I'm protective of the people I care about. Always been that. And when things like that are out, it frustrates me. So the fact that my brother, of all people, I understand. I am I am afraid. I am scared for friends of mine still in the area. But it's also, I'm sorry. Love my friends. I do. Scared for them. But it's my brother, man. The fact that my brother is right there too, it angers me that I can't do a whole lot about it. If I had the ability to stop everything that was on, I would. But I don't. I've had the idea in the back of my mind for probably a year of joining a fire department. And this would be one of those situations where I would be happy that I was, but also not. Because what's also pissed me off about these riots, I know I said that I'm going to leave it at that, but God fucking dawned on me. Another thing that's pissed me off about these riots is they're attacking police. Their anger and their frustration is directed to the police. I understand that. don't like it in general, but I understand it. But they're attacking firefighters, and all the firefighters are doing to put buildings that you've set on fire down. That pisses me off. Firefighters aren't even your target. Why are you doing this? Oh, because you want to see the building on fire? Well, I don't. So, again, I'm both happy and upset that I'm not a firefighter at this point because I know that I would be there if that was the case. Um, and as I was watching them burning the third precinct, it it caused me a lot of confusion in how I felt because there was a part of me that felt like this was a call to action in signing up for, but the other part of me was glad that I wasn't because I don't want to be in that. Again, I want everyone safe, both from these riots and uh, with the thing that hasn't been on my mind for the last couple days, but with the coronavirus, COVID-19. Not happy. And this is a time where that's hard. But if there is anything you can find in your life, make you hope you able again. Point of this video. I think it was just cathartic. Say what I wanted to say several times and never wanting to put this statement. I feel weird talking about it to my, but to put it public, being a nearly 30-year-old white male, I don't have the history. I don't feel like I am able to talk about the subject, which is sad, but is also understandable. Because if I were to state my own opinion and it mesh entirely, then I have no doubt I'd be attacked. Clearly, just for an opinion. Now, the reason why I'm more comfortable talking about this is I believe I do mesh with protesters. I agree with a lot of things. I can empathize with the feeling behind it. There are things that I criticize. I disagree with the rioting. I 100% disagree with rioting. I disagree with getting rid of or defunding the police. I don't think that is something that should even think about. I understand the behind both of those ideas, but I think if that were to actually have happened, it would be in a way worse place. But to agree, thing that the the death was wrong. No denying that. There's no reason why it should have. And that the protesters are not wrong wanting to because they should. And the fact that this is yet another black man gets killed by officer is but I don't know what. So we'll leave it with this. I agree. I have my issues at times, but I stand behind the meaning and the intent of the Black Lives Matter. I can also argue for the people who talk about all lives matter, but there is also the thing that I tend to agree with is you can't have all lives matter until Black Lives Matter. And I agree with that. That is true. But I think everyone everyone deserves happiness. Everyone deserves to live. So again, I've had my issues with how they've handled things in the past. It's fine. That's my own opinion on it. But the intent of the movie and the message that they have, I don't disagree with. Um, the thing that I do disagree with is the defunding or getting rid of. That is the one thing that they talk about that I don't. But I do stand behind all those protesters, all the protesters, not the rioters. I condemn the rioters. Um, but I stand behind the. It's not a happy video, but it's a video that I feel like I needed to make. At the very least, to get some things that have been dwelling on me for last. And there are people who are talking on Twitter about how like silence is not an option at this. While I don't feel comfortable being able to talk about this, I do I need I need to say something to like the handful of people who may or may not watch this. Hope everyone is safe. Hope everyone can get to happiness, not have all of this hate. I don't know how we're gonna get there though. I don't know if it's time or if it's change or combination. But that's what I hope. So be happy, stay safe, and a video that's not a game. Hopefully, everyone is safe.